with the partnership with the Ministry of Women, we are holding this come from the sporting federations.
At the outset, I wish to thank the Fiji National Sports Commission for inviting us, and I congratulate you on organizing this forum for your members yet again. Despite the sporting activities slightly taking a back seat due to the pandemic, and I'm told that you have prioritized your role as advocates on the issues surrounding child protection and gender-based violence in the sports arena. I also wish to acknowledge your partnership with the Ministry, with UN Women, to support the national consultations on the National Action Plan through this forum. Violence against women and girls is a human rights violation that many people witness and experience throughout their life cycle, sometimes as victims and sometimes as aggressors. Too many of our children witness the incidents of domestic violence within their homes on a daily basis. Too many of our female relatives, our grandmothers, our mothers, our sisters and daughters become victims of violence in their own homes at the hands of their male relatives on a daily basis. And in some settings, violence in these circumstances is still being seen as justified, and as such, it goes unreported. Whilst it is true that men can also be victims of such violence, statistics show and say that such incidences are negligible when compared to incidences where women are the victims. The ferocity, frequency, and consistency of men's violence against women are statistically and significantly higher. A report by the Fiji Women's Crisis Center, Somebody's Life, Everybody's Business, revealed that 72% of Fijian women experience one or more types of violence in their lifetime from their husbands or intimate partners. This includes physical, emotional, and sexual violence. The survey also highlighted that women were beaten during pregnancies and raped by their husbands or partners after a physical abuse. In 2019, 10 women lost their lives due to intimate partner violence. In 2020, 4 women lost their lives the same way. COVID-19 related lockdowns also saw a hike in domestic violence reports. The increases in domestic violence reports post-disasters are also not new around the world, nor for us here in Fiji. The National Domestic Violence Helpline 1560 recorded a total of 87 calls in February of 2020 before COVID hit our shores. In March, 187 calls when we first got our first case. In April, we had 527 genuine calls, a spike to genuine calls on domestic violence through our National Domestic Violence Helpline. 66% of the callers were women, 34% were men. 54% of calls were domestic violence related, and close to 50% of women were reporting a correlation between COVID-19 and an increase in violence, linked directly to the restrictions of movement and economic strains on families. The domestic violence being reported was serious. Close to 3/4 of women reported physical violence, including some extremely serious forms of violence, such as being punched, hit by stones and timber. Last year, Fiji embarked on a historic mission to develop a national action plan, which you'll be talking about throughout the day. A plan for the next 5 years, 2021 to 2026, making it the first Pacific Island country and one of the only 2 countries in the world to have a whole of government, whole of population, inclusive, evidence-based approach to prevent violence against all women and girls. We recognize that in order to solve a national problem, there must be an evidence-based approach to prevent violence against women and girls. We recognize that in order to do this evidence must be based also on a shared understanding amongst all Fijians for what causes it. The National Action Plan will explain, using data and evidence, what the root causes of violence against women and girls in Fiji is, and what are the additional contributing factors that makes the violence more likely to happen. The government has already established a Domestic Violence Act in 2009 and reforms in the Crimes Act to better address the gaps in addressing gender-based violence, providing justice for survivors and rehabilitation or punishment for perpetrators. Government funds the operation of a toll-free helpline, 1560, for domestic violence, and the child helpline, 1325, to make reporting easier. And at this juncture, I'd like us as a body to promote the use of these helplines for those victims of violence, for those seeking advice on domestic violence and violence against children and child abuse. I'd also like to encourage us as individuals, as an organizations, as stakeholders in this very important topic, not to turn a blind eye when we see abuse happening, not to ignore a scenario saying it's a personal matter, it's none of our business. Sexual abuse and domestic violence are criminal acts, and it is not a personal matter. If you see it happening, report it. Sports can play a vital role in preventing violence against women and girls. The Fiji National Action Plan on the Prevention of Violence identifies sports as a priority setting. There are 13 key settings in total to prevent violence against women and girls, such as schools, workplaces. People learn and reproduce particular attitudes, behaviors, and social norms in sports settings as well. Therefore, we know that it is crucial to include sporting bodies and avenues in efforts to address gender inequality and the prevention of violence against women and girls. Sports and leisure spaces not only bring people together across communities, they also create an opportunity to involve a diverse range of individuals and groups across our nation. This has great potential to influence social change by creating inclusive, equitable, healthy, and safe environments for men and women, boys and girls. Greater female representation in sports participation and sports leadership, especially in sports which are traditionally male-dominated, like rugby, can help transform harmful gender norms, challenge restrictive gender roles, and promote the empowerment of women. However, sporting environments are places where violence against women and girls, and against men as well, occur directly, and if allowed, can provide a setting for violence-supporting attitudes and disrespectful behavior towards women and girls. This suggests that there is an important role for education and organizational development to build a positive and violence-free sporting culture. Engaging men and boys in prevention initiatives can be a focus in the sports setting. However, women's and girls' participation is also crucial. This helps to ensure that the prevention strategy does not cause further harm or indirectly reinforce unequal gender norms. Gender-based violence, as we may know, thrives in silence. It's therefore very important that we speak about it and that we discuss it at every opportunity. The message needs to be consistently loud, clear, and unequivocal that violence against women and girls is illegal, it's immoral. It can never be justified, and it needs to be punished. If we don't make that message consistently loud, clear, and unequivocal now, we will run the risk of raising a generation of Fijians who will grow up thinking that gender-based violence can be justified in certain circumstances, including in sports. It is important that sport, which is such a big influence on our society, uses this influence to advocate for respect, for gender equality, inclusion, and non-violence on and off the field. Positive elements and values within sports, such as participation and fair play, have been extended to the promotion of respectful relationships, gender equality, inclusion, and non-violence by various partnerships between sports and community organizations. The fact of the matter is that violence against women and girls is too common when it shouldn't even exist, and we need to work together to fix this. And I'm happy to see that you've taken the lead in the sports sector to do your bit to end violence against women and girls. I've said it before and I say it again. The government has done a lot in this area in relation to laws, Domestic Violence Act back in 2009, reforms to the Crimes Act, removing the need for victims of rape to have their evidence corroborated before it can be accepted in court. We've done a lot in relation to our laws that discriminate against women. There's one that existed until 2018, which prohibited women from working in underground mines because they're females. But that's out of the window now. So as a country, we've done a lot in the legal reforms, the platforms that govern gender equality and violence against women and girls. We've got a lot of policies going on, not only by government, but also by non-government organizations. And they've done a great job in this area for decades. And yet we still see our statistics rising. Because at the end of the day, and when you hear about the National Action Plan, we get to understand that all these laws, all these policies and programs will mean nothing if there is no change within the individual. It's a change of mindsets, change of hearts. And that takes awareness, which is what we will try to do here today. But at the end of the day, it's us as individuals taking ownership of this, understanding it, and making a change. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.